How you doing? So I'm making a video today about Washington State prison system, what it's like and what to expect. If you've been sentenced to a period of time that's more than a year and a day, you'll be on your way to the state prison in Washington State. When you first get taken out of the county jail, or if you turn yourself in, you'll be on a bus either on a Tuesday or a Friday to Shelton, Washington, where you'll be taken there, and it's called, basically, it's like your intake. If you've never been to prison before, you'll be there on the average for 60 days. Once you get there, you'll be put into a kind of a, it's like a huge cell, basically, and they'll call your name. You'll be in your underwear. You'll walk up to the front counter. They'll ask you some questions, and you'll fill out some paperwork, and you'll go down to they call them the lower R units, and that's lower R1, 2, and 3. Down there, you'll be locked up in your cell pretty much all day. They'll let you out for an hour of rec. If it's nice outside, if the weather's good. If it's pouring down rain or anything, plan on just staying in your cell. You'll be in there with another person, so it's like 2 men per cell. And like I said, if you've never been to prison before, it takes longer to get your intake done and all your needs done. This is where they'll take you into a classroom and you'll do testing to see how smart you are, basically. If you've ever had your GED, if you've never graduated from high school, they'll put you into a program wherever prison you're at. Besides maybe a camp. Camps, you don't have the luxury of schooling or anything like that. But if you do need to get your GED, chances are you won't be going to a camp if it's your first time, because they want you to get your GED. So they're going to send you to a regular institution like Shelton, where you're at. They might keep you there until you get your GED and then reclassify you and then send you to a camp. If you qualify, if your points are low enough, which it's real easy in Washington State to be a minimum security, they might send you to a regular institution. With me, they sent me to McNeil Island, and that's basically a medium, even though they have a small camp there of people, minimum security people, maybe a couple hundred, just to keep the place, do the maintenance and stuff, on the regular prison. They always like to have a minimum security facility at these regular institutions, just because, you don't have to the guards don't have to follow you around. If you're minimum security, they can put a little bit more trust in you, and you can do a lot more things. You have a lot more freedom than maybe somebody at the institution who's a medium or a high. They're not going to be able to perform those jobs, because you got to have a guard watching you because you're too problematic, or if they can't trust you as much as a minimum security person. So anyway, so once you get to Shelton, you'll be in the lower R units. You plan on being there for a couple weeks, maybe 3 weeks. One day they'll call your name, and every day of the week on a certain day, I'm not sure what it is, they'll be doing, they'll be moving people up to the upper R units. The upper R units are 4, 5, and 6. If you go to R4 or 5, you're not going to get a television. That's pretty much, it's set up for the high level people. If you're a medium or high security level, But you can be minimum security. You could have no point. I mean, you could have like no points at all, be the minimum security as possible, and they can still send you to the R4 or 5. Now, if you're lucky enough to go to R6, which I was the first time when I went, you get a TV set. So you can sit in there with your celly and watch TV all day. You'll be in a jumpsuit that's too big for you, and it's ridiculous. But the whole time you're there, you'll be in a blue jumpsuit or an orange jumpsuit. If you're in an orange jumpsuit, you're going to be basically an R4 or 5. And you'll be locked in your cell pretty much all day long. Like I said, it's basically like the lower R units. You get a little bit more freedom. It's a little bit more like regular prison once you get up to the upper R units. You know, you get out for rec a couple times a day. They take you over into the gymnasium for an hour of your rec. Now listen, they don't have to give you that recreation if they don't want to. If there's problems in the unit, they just keep you in your cell, and they're small cells. You got a toilet in there and everything like that, and you got a celly, and you know, that's just the way it is. Breakfast, lunch, and dinner, when they crack the doors and the doors open, you go to breakfast. When it's lunchtime and the doors crack open, you go to lunch. When the doors crack open, you go to dinner. You don't stay in your cell. You don't get to stay in your cell. If you stay in your cell, you're going to have problems with the guards. You got to get up and go eat to the cafeteria and back. Anyways, like I said, if you've been to prison once or twice before, they've already done all these things, testing for, you know, your schooling. They've tested for this. They've tested for that. They already know where you've been before. Lots of times they like to bounce people around throughout the prison system. You might show up to Shelton as a medium. Your points might be a medium. As soon as you get to the institution, Coyote Ridge or wherever they send you, that's not a camp, maybe 6 months from then, 3 months from then, boom, your points get lowered. Because like I said, it's real easy to be minimum security in Washington State prison system. And your points drop. Now you're minimum security. So now they're saying, hey, where do you want to go? They might ask you, where do you want to go? They're going to ask you at intake, before you even get out, sent off to a regular prison. They're going to ask you, well, your minimum security, where do you want to go? Do you want to go over here, or do you want to go there? Where would you like to be? Doesn't mean you're going to be there or go there, but there's a better chance if you say, hey, my family is over here in Walla Walla. I'd like to go to Walla Walla Camp, or I'd like to go to Coyote Ridge to the minimum security there. Wherever the place is, they try to keep you by your family, closer to your family, so it's easy for them to visit. But it doesn't mean you're going to be there or go there, especially if you got problems. If you're, you know, problematic and you lash out and you got a big mouth and stuff like that, they tend to do you dirty and send you somewhere further away from your family. So keep that in mind. You know, it just things like that. Prison system don't have a problem with messing with you or making your life a little harder or harder for your family to come visit you. If you're problematic and got problems and issues and you lash out and you're a big mouth or anything like that, I'm just letting you know, once they catch wind of that, they can make your life miserable, or at least a lot harder. But for the most part, if you keep your mouth shut and do the right thing and just try to get through it and do your time, they'll leave you alone. Benefits about going to a camp, minimum security, you get to smoke cigarettes pretty much. I mean, you know, if you want tobacco or something like that, plan on spending $20 for a bag, you know, like a bag of Top or Bugler that, you know, you see in the stores. That's cost you like $20. And pretty much the cops don't care about, you know, if you smoke. They're not, I mean, you can't light one up in front of them or nothing, but you can go in the bathroom and smoke and out on the track when you're doing your, you know, because you're out all day long. The thing is I don't like about the camps is that you're in a dorm type style setting. people are in there farting, they're loud, you can't get away from the noise. You can't have basically any quiet time because you're in bunk beds and, you're in there in one of the units, like at Monroe Camp. In one of the units, I'd say there's probably 60 people, 40, 60 people in a unit. Now, there are rooms there. You can get your own cell. It takes about 6 months, typically, before you can get moved into a cell. Unless you know somebody there that has a cell already and say their roommate getting out, or they get in a fight and get kicked out of there, and now he has an empty bunk. Sometimes you can get in there and say, hey man, I know this guy, I want to come in there and move in with me. If you got a cool cop, the sergeant, he'll let you do it, move you in there a little bit ahead of time or ahead of better people. But typically it's a list, and the list goes, in order. So if you're up next for a room or a bed and somebody's getting out or whatever the deal is, you automatically move in there. No matter who's in there or what, you get to move into the cell. So, but for 6 months, you got to tough it out a little bit and deal with the noise and the people and just a bunch of crap stuff, Now, if you're minimum security, you might just say you're the minimum you can get. You have like 0 points or even 1 point, and you're minimum security, but you take medications, you're not going to go to a camp. You're going to go to a regular institution. That's probably a medium. It'll be no more than a medium. You won't go to the penitentiary or nothing like that, but you'll go to a regular institution where you have a cellie, you have your own key to your door. You don't have a toilet in there. You got to go use the bathroom every time you need to go to use the bathroom. There are some institutions that have bathrooms, toilets and stuff in their cells, but those ones there are basically like penitentiaries. I mean, they keep people locked up in those, so you don't get a key and you don't get to go in and out when you want to and use the bathroom because you already got a bathroom in there, so you can be locked in your cell quite a bit. That's basically for, a high, if you're a high level. What else? If you've never been to prison before, and you're not, you ain't got the convict mentality or anything like that, it's easy to get yourself in a little bit of trouble there, if you don't know the ways, the protocols and stuff like that in the prison system. Even in a camp, you can get yourself beat up and have some problems. A lot of the problems stem from gambling is one of the biggest things. If you like to gamble and you can't pay your debts, you're going to have problems because, trust me, there's guys that are minimum security that are convicts that have done time and time again. They know how the system works. They don't have a problem with throwing down with anybody. They just don't care, and if somebody owes them money, they're going to get it. The other thing is store. You can go to the store or say, hey, I don't have no coffee. So this guy says, this guy's running a store there. He's got coffee. He's got, pretty much anything you want. And he says, listen, you want coffee? I'll give you a half the thing of Folgers, but you give me back a full can of Folgers on commissary day. So you do that. And commissary day comes and you don't have the money on your account. Your family couldn't get it on there, or they sent you money and they took a bunch of money off because you owe back child support. Now you can't pay your debt. Now you got problems. So just take that into consideration that these people don't play. It's a hustle they got, and they're not in it to give away stuff. They're there to make money and so they can live a little easier. So don't get caught up in that stuff. You can't pay, don't play. You're going to have problems. Now, if you're a guy that's been to prison and stuff before, you already know all about these things. But like I said, it's really easy to be minimum security in Washington State prison system. So you do have a lot of people in there that are done time. They've been to prison before. They got that convict mentality. Last time I was there, my cellie was a native Indian, young guy. I want to say he's probably 30 years old, and this guy has been, I think it was like his sixth time uh, in prison. And this guy, he didn't play around. I mean, he was a big old native, and not real tall, but he was big, and he was known how to, he was known to fight. And people just didn't, they didn't want any part of him. And he made it known that, hey, if anybody wants some of this, come get it. And he was definitely institutionalized, and he was definitely got that convict mentality. And he would throw down with anybody. It didn't matter who you were, how big you were. It didn't matter. He was very confident in his abilities. I never did see him throw down, but I get it from watching him and his the way he handled himself. And yeah, he didn't have a problem throwing down with anybody. It didn't matter who it was. Now, let's see. You're not going to get people in minimum security that, you're not going to get murderers. You're not going to get people that have, done some serious crimes in minimum security. They're never going to get there. Their points will never drop that low. But you will get them in the mediums. I've been in McNeil Island with guys in there that were, convicted murderers and had their points drop down to a medium level and made their lives a little bit easier. But they're doing life sentences. And there's plenty of guys in there that you just, just know better not to talk to. Usually they got a lot of time to do. They don't want no problems. They have a routine, and they stick to that routine, and they don't like to have it interrupted. Even the guards know better not to mess with these people and just to leave them alone. And usually if they want something, or if they got a cellie that gets moved in their cell, they'll go tell the guard, hey, you better move this guy out or he's going to get hurt. And okay, no problem. We'll get him out. We'll get him out of there. Or they'll say, hey, I got a buddy of mine just came in on the chain. I want him as a cellie. They move him right in. They know who the convicts are. They know who the people are that they need to have some respect for. And usually the convicts, they get a little bit of love when it comes to that, because these guards, they know they got lots of time and they're not ones to mess with, and they want to just kind of keep them happy to a certain extent. They got a nice little cushy job, and but there's plenty of people like that in there, but they've done some time, and these they got a little bit of time underneath their belt, and they got a little bit of pull, I guess you want to say, when it comes to being a convict. Guards just know not to mess with them, and just kind of, hey, that's cool. If you want something, if it's something basic or something they can do, they'll do it for them. My cellie that I had in McNeil Island, he was about 50 years old. He'd been in there for, I want to say 17 years. He would have been done with his time after 20. It was attempted murder he was in there for, and he was a big man, very big guy, but he was kind of, he wasn't hitting the weights and stuff no more, not for a long time. I talked to another guy that I knew that knew him from way back in the day in Walla Walla, and he told me, yeah, everything that my cellie was telling me is true. Some stuff that he did over in Walla Walla. A guy over there had been convicted for raping a mother and daughter, tying them up to a tree, raping them repeatedly, and then killed them. My cellie was in Walla Walla Penitentiary at the time. This is back in the early 90s. And the guy who did that to this mom and daughter showed up in Walla Walla. Well, my cellie told his cellie, you're getting out. I'm moving you out of here. And he moved that rapo in his cell. And as soon as and he told the guards, I'll move him in here. And he had some pull because he was a convict. He was smart, but the guy was, was no one to mess with. And he got a sergeant to move this rapist in there. As soon as the doors cracked shut, he grabbed the guy by the hair and started gouging his eyes out with a pin. And the guy's legally blind to this day. And he got rolled up and got shipped out and got another 3.5 years attached to his sentence. Plus, he had a bunch of his good time taken because he got in there and got sentenced before 1990, before they made the new law where you only get 15% for violent crimes. And he got in there and got sentenced, so he was on the 33% good time, even though he was in there for violent crime. So he would have been out of prison if he wouldn't have done that. And I asked him, I said, man, what did you do that for? You know what the repercussions are going to be. You're going to get rolled up. You're going to get time taken. You're going to get more time. And he said, well, this guy had a heart. We'd watch the news and he'd see women in there getting abused on the news, and he would just, he'd tear up. And he had a soft spot for women, and he didn't like that when people abused women and raped them and beat them or whatever. Especially the mom and daughter, it really got to him. And he told me, he said, I figured that what that guy did to that woman and that daughter and what they went through, he didn't have a right to see anymore. And I made sure of that. And that's what I'm saying. There's people like that know the repercussions. They know what's going to happen. They know they're going to get rolled up. Their whole life's going to change. They're going to get shipped out. They're going to have to go through a bunch of crap. But it didn't matter to him. He had to do that for that woman and that daughter. And that guy today is legally blind. So that's just one little story. I didn't name any names or nothing like that. But that's the kind of guy this guy was. He was my cellie. He asked me to come move in with him because I was mellow. I didn't cause any problems. I was quiet. And we got along just fine. And I hope he's okay to this day. I don't know if he can handle the outside. I don't know if he ever made it. He was the kind of guy that I think that when he got out, he wasn't going to listen to probation or anything like that. But the guy was very intelligent, very smart, but he's just been institutionalized, and I don't know if he was going to make it or not. But anyways, that's just one little story. Another story was when I was in the lower R units, I was in there with a guy that I was a big old white boy, and about 6'2", and he said he was in there. He was in there on a third strike, you're out, and he was in there for robbing or something, or bank or something like that. And anyways, when I finally got from McNeil Island and I got my points dropped and I went to Monroe Camp one day, this is about 5 months later, I was walking by. One of the guys had you can buy your own TV set in there and watch it in there, and as long as you got earphones on, but most people don't even listen to them with their earphones. They just have the TV volume up. Anyways, I was walking back from lunch and I was walking by his cubicle there, and I was just happened to glance at the TV, and there was my cellie from the lower R units. And I said, hey, man, unplug your headphones there. I want to see what are they saying about that guy. That's my old cellie. Well, they had kept him in the lower R units. When you have a special case like that, they don't move you up to the upper R units. They'll just keep you in the lower R units where you're safe until you get shipped out. Well, they sent him to the Walla Walla Penitentiary, which is, he was doing, he got sentenced to life. And, anyways, one day they were racking back people, and he jumped in his cell, and before the doors automatically rack back like this, two guys from his unit jumped in there and they beat him. They beat him for the whole hour. The doors were racked back. They beat him for an hour, over an hour. And when the doors opened back up, they came back out. And anyways, they found him and took him to the hospital. His head swelled up twice as big as his normal head was. And he died 3 days later on Thanksgiving Day. And I didn't name any names there. It's all public record, basically. And so I'm just telling you, you don't know who you are really dealing with. People are not going to tell you what they're in there for. If they're in there for some kind of sex crime, he was in there for, a sex crime. And, of course, he told me that he was in there for, and everybody else, he was in there for, 3 strikes you're out for robbery. He robbed a bank or something like that. Of course, they're not going to tell you. So you don't know who you're going to be with in a cell. You don't know the true story about them. Men are basically, I don't know. To me, I don't know. It's just the way it is. You can't believe everything you hear. So anyways, that's the Washington state system, and that's the things you want to be prepared. There's some places that have, like, you can go there and they have weights, like at Shelton, they have weights there. You can pay $5 or $10 and buy a weight card, and you can start lifting weights. There's a lot of people that do it. They got nothing better to do on their wreck, so they go hit the weight pile, and it's hard sometimes to get the weights you want to work out with that time. But my recommendation is, if you've never been to prison before, people demand respect there. They might not on the streets. These people might rip you off and have no respect for anything or anybody. But once they get to prison, respect is the whole thing. It's the big thing. You don't want to call somebody a punk. If you call somebody a punk, you better get ready to fight, because that's like the worst word you can use in the prison system is punk. If you've never been to prison and you're not good with your hands or anything like that, just mind your own business. If you want to gamble, but make sure that you have the money to pay for it. Don't get carried away. You got to remember too, in Washington state system, prison system, your family can send in $100, but if you owe back fines and if you owe back child support and this and that, by the time you get that $100, it might be only $35. They take a lot of money from you if you owe. And so yeah, if you send $10 a month or $10 a week, they can't touch it, but it's got to be $10 or less. So a lot of the time I just lived off the $10 a week. I would buy coffee one week, and I didn't buy snacks and all that stuff. I'd have my wife send me in couple $100, and I'd get, a couple $100 would get me like, I think I was getting like 35% of my, money taken, because I didn't have child support and all that stuff. So that every $100 got sent in, I'd get $65. And, when I first got there from the county, I had $300 on my books, and it got transferred over to my prison books, and they never touched none of that. But any money that gets sent in by your family or friends after that, they'll deduct money off it. I think as long as you owe back fines and stuff like that, like I did, it's automatically 35%. If you owe back child support, they'll tack on another whatever percentage, but it adds up real quick. Some guys, they had $100 sent in, they get $10. So be careful about that. If you smoke cigarettes and stuff like that, and you go to a camp, you can buy cigarettes in there for, like I said, $20 a pouch. You can do a street to street, where your family on the street sends somebody else on the street the money for your tobacco, so you never have to deal with it in prison. You just call up your family and say, listen, can you do that? Can you make a call to what's her name or what's his name, and pay that $20 for me? I'd appreciate it. I like to get them off my back, or whatever you want to say. You got to be careful what you say on the phones. And then, your wife, gets a hold of the person who's got all the tobacco in the prison. They're people on the street, and they just pay for it on the street. And then once they get the money, boom, next thing you know, you'll have your pouch. Usually they'll come in a condom or something like that, and the pouches will be just packed solid, and only be a thing like about that long of tobacco. And once you take it out of the condom and stuff, it just all kind of, expands. There's a whole pouch in there, but they just compact it, because what they got to do to get it in there. So if you do go to a camp, you can be minimum security, and you can, it's called minimum in, minimum out. If you're minimum in, you got to stay in the institution. You got to work in the institution. You're still minimum security, but you're in the institution. If you're minimum out, you can get a job out there fighting, forest fires, cleaning up stuff, planting plants in a forest somewhere, working on the side of a highway or a road, cleaning up litter, stuff like that. And that's how the tobacco gets in. People make drops there and they pick up the tobacco. They already got everything in condoms, and you know how they get them in. They pay people to get them through the strip search, because you get strip search when you come back to the prison before you can get into the prison if you're minimum out and working off the ground, off the prison property, stuff like that. So just be, be wise to everything. If you're not really sure about something, ask somebody that you feel comfortable with, and say, hey man, how does this work? How does this work? Do I sit with my own kind at the table at lunch or dinner? Stuff like that. I know in the mediums and stuff like that, if you're a white person, you sit with the whites. If you're black, you sit with the blacks. Doesn't mean you can't, talk to them and stuff like that. But when you sit in the rec hall, that's pretty much a mandatory thing. Not so much in the camp, stuff like that. But, I've seen some of the worst fights in camp than I did anywhere else in any of the mediums that I've been in. The camps, I've seen some really good fights, and I've seen a few times where people should have been, one guy should have been killed with a lock in the sock. This kid put a couple locks in the sock and beat this dude, big old dude, bad with this lock in the sock. If it would have been anybody else, the nurses said that they'd have been dead. But the guy he was beating was a big old dude with a hard head. But some of the best fights I've seen are guys that are around 170, 80 pounds. They're in good shape, and I've seen them fight for 10 minutes, and I've seen the guards just stand there and watch until a sergeant shows up, and then they got to stop the fight or something. But a lot of the guards and stuff, they're, some guards will let you do stuff, and some won't. So be careful about that. You'll figure it out, who will let you get away with certain things and stuff like that. But anyways, that's pretty much the prison system. So, when it comes to points and stuff, like I said, it's easy to be minimum security in Washington State prison system. So if you're a medium, or even if you're a high, it can be less than a year, and you can go from a high to a minimum. It's that easy. It just depends on your past history, and if you got warrants for your arrest and stuff like that. Those all boost up your points and stuff like that. If you got warrants for your arrest, you can still be minimum security, but you'll be minimum in. You won't be allowed to leave the institution, to work outside the prison grounds. You'll have to work inside the prison, but you're still minimum security. But like I said, as easy as it is to be minimum, you can be a medium. Just like for doing the wrong thing, bam, your points can go up, and they can ship you out of there, and your whole life, you got to go, back to Shelton, sit there for a week or something like that, and then wait for the chain to that institution for that week, because every week they drive from Shelton to these institutions. They have, like, Monday they'll go to Coyote Ridge, Tuesday they go to Walla Walla, Thursday they go to Clallam Bay. You just got to wait for the chain, because you're getting moved. So everybody goes back to Shelton. When you do a transfer, everybody goes back to Shelton. You wait there for about a week, get on the chain to wherever other prison they're sending you to, and that's how it works. So, they do also have a, if you're minimum security, you got no violence and stuff, you could be entitled to a $59.50, I think it is, halftime, 50% of your good time. I got that last time I was there on a DOSA. I got my DOSA, and then I also got 50%. I qualified for it because I didn't have any violence. But I had a misdemeanor domestic violence, and they were trying to tell me that I didn't qualify for it because I had violence on there. Well, it's a felony domestic violence is what disqualifies you for. So I had to go to the law library, make copies of it, and bring it to my counselor. Finally, she called me over the intercom and said, listen, here's your new release date. They're giving you the 50%. But I had to fight for it, and I had to go around and around with a few people about it. And they were just being jerks, because trust me, they're going to try to keep you in there as long as you can. They don't want to just let everybody out. But I qualified for it, and they had no choice. The other thing is too, if you don't have an address to get released to, you can sit there with that. You might have a release date. It could be, say, December 10th. But if you don't have a release date, or if you're on probation and you have to have an address, and you don't have one, that means you're not getting out on December 10th. You're going to sit there until you get housing. Sometimes you got to go to one of these halfway houses or these homes that people, they have set aside for, they'll rent you a room and stuff. So you got to be on the ball. If you got a release date coming up and you don't have an address, no family member is going to let you use their address or stay there, you want to get on the ball ahead of the December 10th, way ahead of that, and get housing set up, lined up, secured, so when December 10th rolls around, you're getting out. You could go to work release. I went to work release. I didn't like it. I skipped out, went home for the night, and with my wife. Next morning, 6 o'clock, I was down at the county jail, and I turned myself in and went back to Shelton to finish my time. I got a month taken off my sentence, so I had to do an extra month. It was, I already knew what was going to happen. I was hoping they weren't going to take that much time, but they did. I didn't like work release. I didn't like jumping through their hoops. I didn't have a job lined up. If you have a job lined up and stuff like that, if you know you're going to work release, get a job lined up, call your family, try to hire somebody, hire you, and have the paperwork done. So it's not that bad. You can just, go to work every day, come back and go to sleep, and it's not that bad. But trying to find a job out there like I did, was trying to, and being basically, told, hey, you better have a job by this date or this and that. It was just ridiculous. I'd rather just go back and just do my time. I didn't want to go to work release anyways, but I did. They sent me there, and it didn't work out for me. It might work out for you, but if you have a job lined up, it's better. Easier to do because they got rules and stuff, and they're real sticklers. At least the one in King County was. So that's a little bit of history on the Washington State prison system. My next video will be on the federal prison system. I was in the feds a couple times, and it's a lot different than the state. So I'll be doing another video on that. So if you're looking at this video and you must mean you got some prison time coming up, or to do some time, I feel sorry for you. Hopefully you can get through it. A lot of people say, oh, I just can't. Oh, I don't know how you can do that. How could you go do? Prison's got to be just awful and stuff. And oh, I could never do that. Well, you just do it. There's not much of a choice. I mean, either you're going to run from it and they're going to catch you eventually, and it's no way to live, and you just get through it. I've seen some of the nerdiest people go through the prison system, and they get through it. And so you can get through it too. It's not the end of the world. But anyways, I just thought I'd make this video and maybe help somebody out and get through their time a little bit easier. Take care, guys. Good luck to you.